Hello, everyone, and welcome to El Nuclear. And I am here today with my Aunt Bertha. And interesting fact that Bertha and my grandfather were brother and sister. And I wanted to interview her today. And I'm very appreciative that she took the time to meet with me. And it's very good to see you. And always a pleasure and very grateful. So the first thing I thought was interesting, just to frame this conversation, is that my grandfather Leo and Bertha both have lived past the age of 100. And Bertha is now 104 years old. And what I find to be more significant is the fact that she's in such good health and still enjoying life and has a good quality of life. And I think that's key to any age, whether you're 30, 50, 100. Life is about quality. And the fact that there is vitality and happiness, that is a big part of this. And I just want to have a conversation with you.
I'm ready.
And just talk about general stuff throughout life, things you can remember. I have a few specific questions, and let's just rap about some stuff.
Good.
And that's basically it. So the first thing I want to say is, or ask, how important do you think having a sense of humor is to longevity?
Oh, I think it has a lot to do with it. Absolutely. Growing up, I mean, even as I got older, I had a husband who was just full of energy.
Yeah.
And it meant a whole lot. I mean,
Yes.
somehow or other, the outlook on life made it seem good, clean, happy.
Right, right. So you would consider yourself, if you had to say you were a happy person throughout life, you were definitely more happy than not happy.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay, so
without a doubt.
Okay, well that's a big part, I think, of this. And let's go back. Let's go back to when you were raising a family. You had two kids that grew up in your house with your husband, and before that, you told me earlier that you were working. So
Yes.
you were a working person. That type of work that you did, were you sitting a lot? Were you active? What was it like?
When I started the job, I was in the office. It was a sitting job. It was in the business machines.
Okay.
I had to do. I was figuring averages on the computer. 6 months after I was there, they brought in industrial engineers.
Okay.
And with industrial engineers, they took a lot of time studies, and I was the girl that was taken into their department and calculated all the time studies.
Got
I
it.
subtracted them, I returned them to the individual, they took out whatever they wanted, I totaled them, I averaged them, and I
Okay.
returned it to them.
And that was when you were really young at this time.
I was 17 years old.
Wow. Okay.
I was working there in Maidenform for 6 months, and then the engineers came in.
Got it. So between that formative time when you were working your first real jobs and the time that you started a family, was how much time was between that time and then?
10 years.
Okay, so you started a little bit late.
I got married late.
Okay, so
I
that's
was
interesting.
27.
Right. So in that time, that was considered radical in a way, right?
Absolutely.
Most people were married much earlier.
I was considered an old maid.
So yeah, so interesting. Like remember that the movie A Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
There's a woman who in the dream. She's this beautiful young lady who's like 32, and they're like, she's an old maid now.
That's
She's
right.
not married. So it's interesting how times change. So your marriage, the fact that you lived a life, you did things on your own. You were kind of going with your own muse before you got married and had kids.
Oh, yes.
You know?
I traveled for the company.
Okay, so you really established yourself in your own way.
Yes.
Before you got married, which is interesting because so many people rushed into marriage when they were 20 years old.
That's right.
And you didn't do that, which is
the opportunity didn't arise, I guess.
okay. Well, in that period of time, which was probably the 50s now, when
I got
Michael.
married in 47,
Okay.
yes. And the kids were, well, if you want to figure, it was probably the early 50s.
Yeah. Can you recall when you went to the market, like when you were buying food, when you were preparing a meal in the 1950s, did you think the quality of food was better? than now, or is it kind of the same to you? I mean,
I don't know if it was better. I think the variety was much more, well, not even the variety, but the fresh vegetables and the things of that nature we had more so.
You had
than
more.
everything now is prepackaged.
Yeah.
Most of the things are
Okay.
prepackaged. Then you went into the store, you bought the meat over the counter, he cut whatever you wanted
Right,
to cut
right,
for you,
right.
and you bought as much as you wanted. You wanted two potatoes, you could buy two potatoes. You didn't have to buy the big quantities that a lot of them have now.
So,
In the package.
so basically, what you're saying is there was a lot less pre-packaging of food.
Oh, I think
Mostly,
so.
most of the stuff was fresh.
Yeah, oh,
like
yes.
vegetables and meat. I mean, now you can still go to a
Yeah.
butcher, but then it was like that was it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were buying stuff off the shelf
No.
when it came to meat.
No, you had a choice. You could tell him, the butcher, what you wanted,
Right,
and he
right.
cut it for you.
So I'm sure that also related to that, processing of food was probably a lot less
Oh, yes.
than it was
Oh,
than
yes.
it is now.
Oh, I think so. I
And-
think so.
Were you ever into like McDonald's or fast food or stuff like that on occasion?
On
Or-
occasion.
On occasion.
Yeah.
But not
more,
regularly.
More so later after we retired.
Okay, just because it was easier. But it wasn't like an everyday thing.
Oh, no. We would well, first of all, we were big walkers. After
Okay.
we retired,
Okay.
we walked, Phil and his brother. We
Okay.
always used to walk every day.
Right.
So sometimes at the end of the city, there was a Burger King, and we would go for
Okay.
the Whopper.
For you would treat yourself.
To the Whopper. But
So-
other than that, we had
Right.
made lunch and dinner.
Right. So you were not doing a lot of sitting around. Like
No.
throughout your life, you were very mobile. You were moving. You know.
When I was working, I had to be at work at 8 o'clock.
Right.
I walked to work every morning. It was a good
Interesting.
mile.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
But in the evenings, we would be picked up.
Okay.
But other than that, I was, as a kid, I was kind of athletically inclined anyway.
Okay.
A bit of a tomboy.
Interesting.
And
Did you ever do formal exercise? Like, you never went to a gym, or did you do that?
after I retired,
Okay.
when I came out to California.
Okay. So you always found a way to do something physical, to
Yeah.
exercise,
Yeah.
throughout. That was
actually,
a good habit.
While I was working, I didn't do it because
Right.
we used to work from 8 to 4, at 8 to 5.
Understood.
And then the evenings, of course, I would come home and take care of the family.
Right.
But it was after I retired that I really went to exercise.
So during the family years, you and Philly being her husband, both worked?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you
He
both worked.
He worked very hard. He
Okay.
was a milkman.
Okay.
He had a wholesale milk route.
And you were doing your thing
And I
as
was-
well.
yes.
Okay, so you were raising a family and both of you had jobs.
Yes.
So you were not sitting around. I mean,
No,
you
no.
guys were very active.
We were.
I really believe firmly that movement, just keeping your body moving, is so key to health.
Even now I try to move
Yeah.
as much as I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
I try.
And one thing that's amazing about Bertha is the fact that no walker. She gets around on her own. She could almost drive a car if she didn't think it was dangerous to others, just in
Absolutely.
case. She's completely, fully functioning.
Well, I do use a cane to protect myself if I
Okay.
go any place.
Okay. Right. But walking around the house, though, it's like
No, not around the
you're
house.
fine.
If I go to the mailbox, if I go out to lunch with the girls
Understood.
or whatever,
Understood.
I take the cane. But other than that,
Let's talk a little bit about specific food. Like throughout your years and the decades, is there anything consistent in your eating habits?
I ate everything.
You ate everything.
I ate
You
everything.
enjoyed.
Okay.
Okay.
I would even experiment with food that I had never eaten.
Right. Right.
There's very, very little. I don't even know if there's anything I can say that I don't like.
Right. Okay. So you like Grandpa Leo,
I
love
like-
food,
No.
and never didn't deprive yourself.
No,
3
no.
meals a day.
That's
Right?
right. Yep.
Okay.
I'm not really a candy eater or a sweets eater.
Right. Not a sweet
Not
sweet tooth
No,
person.
No.
Okay.
no.
Interesting.
Once in a while now I really like a type of coffee cake more so
Okay.
than anything else. I don't indulge in it every day. If it's here, I eat it. If it's not, I don't.
How about things like coffee?
Coffee.
Were you a coffee? Did you love coffee growing up?
I take it because I I want to have something
It gives
to
you
drink. But
okay.
I wasn't one that, I have to have a cup
Okay.
of coffee before
Okay.
I do
But
anything
are
else.
you like a daily coffee, like 1 cup a day person, or even less?
But no, I have about between 2 and 3.
Okay.
Sometimes I
Okay.
have some with dinner, and sometimes I don't.
What about when you were like 30? Did you like coffee at that point in your life?
I
Hard to-
guess I had a cup of coffee.
Okay. So just a thing you had for pleasure.
For
It just
for
gave you,
breakfast, you
it
had
was just a
toasted
part of the
coffee.
routine. Part of the routine. And you ate all kinds of meat, right? Red meat was still a part of your diet?
Oh yeah, when I was married, yeah, we had. Well, of course, when I lived at home with my mother, we were kosher, so
Yeah.
of course we were limited. But once I got on my own,
Right.
we ate all meats. I mean, we ate the pork, we ate the beef, we ate
Wow.
shrimp, we ate lobster, we
Okay.
ate all of the things.
Got it.
We ate a lot of fish.
Okay, so all types of meat, and was there a vegetable on the table?
Oh,
so it was
Michael loved vegetables. I always had
Okay.
at least 2 or 3 vegetables.
so it was a very balanced, full
Yes.
array of food.
Yes.
And most of it unprocessed and prepared at home.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. This is kind of an abstract question and might be hard to answer, but you've been on planet Earth for over 10 decades. Okay, so this is now, you're going into your 11th decade, and you're still going strong, which is very inspirational and fascinating. But at the same time, it's like if you had to look at one decade, and not just personally, but the way the world was, could you name a time that you thought was special? Like the 50s or the 60s or the 70s? Was there something that would lead you to think of one particular time as a standout, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's really a thing.
Well, you know what? If it doesn't come to mind fast, I would say that probably isn't
it's-
significant.
No.
It's just
no.
the way, it's just your attitude, though, would you say has been consistently, you're not.
Life went along.
Yeah.
With the flow. Went with the flow.
And also, I mean, you've had your share of ups and downs, like living. It's what happens when you're alive. You're alive a
Absolutely.
long time, things happen, and you seem to have rolled with the punches well, and you still laugh all the time, and you just seem to have a generally good attitude. And would you say that that was true back in the day? Is this more something with age and wisdom, or do you think you've always been kind of that kind of personality?
Looking back, I really never had any really truly hardships. I mean,
Yeah,
as the family,
right.
even with my parents, they didn't suffer.
Right,
But they
right.
weren't sick. And my sister, we had an unfortunate, she died young,
Okay.
other than that. But other than that, we really had a wonderful family life.
Yeah.
My father was one to always keep the family together. He says, any occasion, always wanted to be together. And I think he was very instrumental in keeping the family that way.
So the importance of family and closeness and having that kind of communication with family members, you'd say is a big part of happiness.
Yes.
It's very important to have good family relationships.
My brothers all lived in the same town. One lived out of town.
Okay.
But we kept together. We socialized together.
Yeah.
But with Leo especially.
Right.
Leo
right.
and Gertie. Especially when we came out here.
Yeah.
And even back in Bayonne, we went out socially with them. And after all, Leah was 10 years older than I was.
Yes.
And we were family.
Yeah. And even now, you seem to always be socializing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
With members of the family,
yes.
with your great grandkids and your
Yeah.
grandkids.
Yeah.
They make an effort and they come over here.
Oh yes.
So
yes.
that's
Yes,
really
they
nice.
do. Joel comes up, the kids come up, Amy
Yes.
comes over with Emma. Yes.
So that's something I think is really, really something when it comes to staying in a good frame of mind.
Yeah.
I mean, people need people. And,
Absolutely.
And there's so much isolation in the world now. There's so many people that spend so much time alone. And I think you're a testament to how important it is for your mental health, your physical health, to be around people that you love, to have community, And it's something that's kind of lost a little bit now.
But Phil was always a social person.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
full of.
Yeah.
He was full of the devil.
Yes.
He was a pistol.
Yeah, yeah.
He really was.
I remember.
And that had a lot to do with it. He was a very outgoing guy,
And you guys, you were married how many years?
55.
Okay. All right.
Unfortunately, it was too short. But we had a wonderful life
Okay.
together.
All
We
right.
were very compatible.
I love that.
Very compatible.
So you are also a good example of when a marriage is a good marriage, how good that can be for your life.
Yes.
When you have the right partner, it's very nourishing to your
doubt.
life.
Without a doubt. There's no question about it.
How about alcohol? Were you not really?
I was never
Never really into. Did you drink a glass of wine with dinner occasionally?
Occasionally,
But really,
only for an
not-
occasion.
not very
It wasn't
much.
a daily.
Okay.
It wasn't a daily.
So not really a drinker.
No.
Cigarettes. Did
No.
you- and in terms of eating, would you call yourself? There's a term that I kind of like called intuitive eating, meaning you kind of know what your body wants, or you kind of eat what you crave.
Yeah.
Would you say that you ate stuff that agreed with you, that just felt right, that you enjoyed? There was no great thought involved. You just ate to enjoy.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And if you didn't like something, you didn't eat it.
That's right.
Okay.
There's very little that I didn't like.
Okay, well that's good. It's an honest, and you enjoyed yourself.
yes,
And
yes.
that's so
I like
central.
Food. I like food. I don't eat in between meals.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
So 3 meals a day. That's been kind of a routine.
And even now.
Yeah.
I have my
Yeah.
breakfast. I have my lunch. Sometimes I'll have a little something in between, but very, very rarely.
And it's amazing to me too, the fact that throughout time you haven't had major illnesses. You've been pretty stable and pretty healthy, both in mind and in body, and you've just enjoyed yourself.
I sure did.
You've had a good life. You've enjoyed food. You've enjoyed family. You just had a balanced life.
We did. Phil and I, we thought alike. And the same things. We could be sitting down.
You wouldn't even have to talk, right?
We both think of the same thing at the same time.
Which is a beautiful. That's what everyone hopes to find.
Yeah,
you know. And you had that magical connection. I think that it's key to I think what you carry with you and what keeps you going.
Yes. I just miss him. I mean,
he
went too early.
Yeah.
Not that he was 87, which is a ripe old
but when
age.
but the fact that you're still doing good, and it's at 104, it's a long time,
Yes,
relative.
It is. Yes, it is.
And he was how much older than you? Was he
5
years?
Yeah.
That's a good space.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anything else here that I
Going back over the years, we used to be neighbors. We used to live
before
on the same street.
Before you knew each other, you were neighbors.
We lived on the same street when we were 16 years old.
And that's how you met, like passing in the
more
night?
Or less,
how did
more or
that
less
happen?
at that stage, we used to just hang out all the time.
Right.
And then, of course, I went to work, and he went into the Army.
Okay.
And then we started the romance after he got out of the Army.
I see.
But he used to live across the street.
So, did he fight in World War II?
Uh-huh.
Okay, wow. Where was he stationed?
France.
He was in France.
Yes.
And you communicated, were you
No.
able to, no? There was no communication?
I did not, no.
So,
after he
okay.
came out of the war and I came
see.
back from I was working in West Virginia for the company.
Right.
We, paths crossed.
Wow.
And that's when the romance started.
I see. So there was a friendship before that kind of blossomed before the war.
Yes.
And after the war, it was almost
10
like
10 years earlier.
Wow.
10 years
All right.
earlier.
So there was definitely some seeds planted.
There was something there,
in
I
your,
guess.
as a really young person. So it sounded like things kind of like really generated in a very organic way, and it happened quickly, and you knew the right thing when you saw it, and you felt it, and you went with it, and that kind of like throughout life seems to have been a pattern of that the way you've lived philosophically.
Right. It was. After the war, when we met, we were married within a year.
Okay, so you are. I mean, it was pretty clear by that point. You were meant for each other.
A couple of months, he gave me a ring, and then we were married in June. Yeah.
So let me ask you since we have talked about all these things, you've kind of answered this question. But if you were to say in life, the most important thing in life, if you were to name one just highlight, what would you say is most impactful to a healthy life and longevity?
Be honest with one another. Being honest.
Communicating.
And communicating.
Yes.
Communicating
Yes.
is the most important.
Not just with a spouse, but just with anyone, with people, just telling them how you feel.
That's right.
Getting stuff off your chest.
Yeah.
Not being, too concerned about opinion,
No,
but just
I was never
telling
opinionated.
Right,
I wasn't an
right.
opinionated person.
But not worrying about judgment.
Yeah.
You tell people how you feel so that you have that clear communication with people.
But I feel communication is very, very important.
So honest communication.
Yes.
Great. Well, this has been honest, and this has been communicative, and a great conversation. And I'm just making sure that I haven't left anything out. We talked about the family dinners in the 50s. We talked about the fact that most food was prepared at home, came from a butcher, came from a fresh source. It wasn't processed food. And those values kind of, kept going as the decades passed. You were always active. You were on your feet. You weren't sitting around a lot. You walked a lot. And your attitude's always been really good. And you just kind of, you live.
I went with the flow.
You go with the flow. So that is primarily what I wanted to establish, and I was pretty much feeling that most of this would be what I was thinking would be the case. Considering that at this age you're still so vibrant.
I'm very fortunate.
And you're just extremely fortunate. But it should be inspirational and good food for thought, or thought for food, for people
Yes.
who want to think about what's really important and how it is important to engage with others. It is important not to stare into your iPhone all day, and to eat reasonably.
Yes.
Nothing, it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be one school of thought over another school of thought. Let your kind of body and your mind
go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Let it tell you what it wants, and just try to live a balanced life.
That's what I try to do.
So I think you're a great example, and I love you, and I appreciate this very much.
I love you too.
And thanks so much for talking with me, because I think it's a rare privilege to be able to do that.
I was going to say it's my privilege.
So my privilege as well to be able to do this. So thank you for that.
And family is still family.
Yeah, that's right. And I know we don't see each other that much.
No.
And I'm glad that lately we have seen each other more.
I tell Joel all the time. I said, it's so nice. Scott calls me, I said, once in a while. It's good to hear from.
So
Listen,
thanks.
Family is still family.
Yeah, I agree.
Family is family.
And I think it's important to make those efforts, because in this day and age, I think it's more important than ever it's always been important, but I think there's so much isolation and separation that I think it's important to keep in mind that family is family, and to make that effort.
But times have so changed that it's a fast life.
It is fast. It is fast.
A fast life.
So thank you, Bertha.
My pleasure. I'm glad I was able to do it.
So I guess, how about in the tradition of my videos, let's get up. You can walk that direction, and I'll walk this direction, and we'll conclude here.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.